I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is wholeness and the fact that that means embracing those parts of ourselves that we may feel guilt or shame or regret around. It means embracing and metabolizing all of ourselves within the totality of our being. So it should be a fun conversation. And before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells and your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Rosalind. Happy Friday to you and to everybody else who's joining us. Great to have you here with us this morning. So we're talking about wholeness. And when we talk about self-realization or transformation or even awakening, what is a part of the conversation that's often not explicitly spoken is this path of wholeness, embracing the shadow, embracing and metabolizing those parts of ourselves that we have exiled, those times or instances when we have felt shame or guilt. And we carry the burden of these things through our lives if we don't metabolize them, if we don't. When I say metabolize, what I'm meaning is integrate. When we exile parts of ourselves, those parts become operative. They don't become non-existent, they become operative because we're either working to not be those parts or we're working to suppress those parts. And it takes a tremendous amount of energy away from our ability to just be as we try to keep these portions of ourselves in abeyance. And one of the ways that we can shift ourselves, that we can begin to integrate these instances, these parts, is to be looking with compassion and curiosity rather than judgment. And we've said over and over, curiosity is the antidote to judgment. Through our curiosity, we are able to approach something that might otherwise be crippling, because guilt and shame certainly can be crippling in the experience of them. And I'm not saying that we oughtn't feel guilt or shame ever at any time. The thing is that we don't want to live there. It's a guilt and shame, grief, all these really deep, very intense emotions, even joy, love, all of these really intense emotions can be powerful catalysts for our growth. And certainly when we feel guilt or shame about something, the intensity of that emotion can spur us into being motivated toward transformation. And as we understand more deeply the mechanics of what happened, how it happened, why it might have happened in terms of programming, lack of consciousness, in personal wounds. Oftentimes, it is because we are wounded that we wound others. Probably most, maybe all of the time, that because we are wounded, we wound others, even unknowingly, maybe without realizing, because we're not tuned in and we're not connected. And so this notion of wholeness is kind of a reconciliation of the parts of ourselves that we have exiled or denied or buried or otherwise excommunicated. And the thing is, if we're on a path of growth and awakening, spiritual awareness, consciousness expansion, we cannot do that with just part of ourselves. We need to be in our wholeness. And cultivating that wholeness is part of our life's journey. It's not that it's an easy thing, because there are things that we do, things that we say, behaviors that we've had, experiences in the world that are not necessarily so easy to metabolize and accept. So I love this. Rosalind says the opposite of wholesome looks like I am separated, not connected. Exactly. And the thing is that we are so normalized to separation everywhere, where we're othering other people, we're othering ourselves on a very consistent basis. We're taught to do that. We're taught to overlook, deny, override our feelings, our gut reaction. We're taught to just tough it out and work through it, just push past it. And while in certain contexts, for instance, perhaps if we're in athletic training, to push our boundaries bit by bit, is perhaps a really positive thing. It allows us to expand and grow. There, the general consensus of powering through something and ignoring what else is operative. It's kind of like when you feel a muscle pulling and you ignore it and then you tear something, right? That we're talking about degrees here, and paying attention, being present. And until we own not with guilt and shame, until we metabolize. So guilt, shame, and blame are the triumvirate of uh, denial when it comes to emotions. So we avoid feeling guilt, shame, or blame at all costs, and then we use them against ourselves and others to dominate and control. And as a result, those feelings of guilt, shame, and blame end up running us. And we're either trying to atone for the guilt, shame, and blame, or we're trying to avoid them or deny them or suppress them. And the idea is that when we are able to complete them, to metabolize them, then they are no longer operative. We haven't denied them, we haven't suppressed them, we've addressed them, and we've dissolved them. And that is a path to wholeness. We cannot be whole until we allow ourselves to heal our shadow selves. We cannot be whole until we can embrace the totality of ourselves and our expression. And the truth is, we're all things. So Rosalind says the knife cannot itself. I'm thinking you're meaning the knife cannot cut itself. The song cannot be separated from the music. It's two sides of the same coin. Exactly. And we can't be whole if we're only looking at one side of the coin. And got it. Thanks, Rosalind. The knife cannot cut itself. I don't know where you come up with these things. You're very good, very poetic, as I keep saying. Anyway, our culture, we've been enculturated to this culture of separation, to othering, to putting other people down or raising them onto a pedestal, to feeling ourselves separate, to feeling jealousies, comparisons. These are all things that are part of our existing paradigm. It was really interesting. I had a meeting yesterday that was very profound, talking about all these distinctions of wholeness, really, and what that means in terms of self-acceptance. So one of the people was talking about letting go and how frightening it was to let go. And I've said this a number of times too, but as Westerners, we're not acclimated really to letting go. We're more acquisitional. We're like holding on and we're accumulating, right? So in terms of that predisposition, rather than letting go, the notion of expanding to include seems to be more readily accessible. Try it on and see if that feels true to you. But to expand to include our anger, expand to include our grief, our shame, our guilt, our joy, our love, our passions, expand to include all of that. And as we expand to include more and more and more, it becomes more and more apparent that we are no one of those things, that we are no thing, that we are a wholeness that encompasses the totality. And the thing is that we can also expand to include the space that we're in, the trees that we see or that we feel. We can expand to include other people as part of ourselves, as a reflection of ourselves. We can expand to include all of existence, because that is our nature. We are everything. And again, that's not like it's true. Try it on, check it out, see if that resonates for you. But there's more and more scientific indicators that say we are the creators of our experience. And collectively, individually, we are the creators of the world. And I am listening to an ebook that a client recommended. And let me see what it's called. It was very fun. Just let me check. Here we go. So it's called Observer. And apparently it was written by somebody who was a big deal in the stem cell research arena. And one of the concepts that is posited is that consciousness created the universe, not that there was a world existing external to us that then generated consciousness, but that consciousness created the universe, which makes so much more sense as we dive into this notion of Gaia and the living intelligence of creation and our wholeness with it. So as we expand to include, we're more present to the interconnection of everything, the inseparability of everything. And it's a transformative way of being that takes us beyond the limitations of our individuality. So we talk about expanding into our fullest expression. And each of us has, I operate under the hypothesis anyway, that each of us has a purpose here, that each of us is here with a particular, I don't know if mission is the right word, it might be, but it's in expanding into that vast nothing, vast no one thing, that we get to best express the essence that we came here to express. So when we have guilt and shame and blame, what happens, what occurs alongside that typically is all kinds of judgment. And we tend to drive those emotions and those reactions even deeper and deeper. When we are able to be present to them, to understand, to bring compassion to that circumstance, curiosity and compassion are profoundly healing mechanisms to bring to pretty much any situation, if we can operate from the place of we're all doing the best we can do at any given moment. And that's a massive assumption. It's a massive assumption. But if we can muster the grace to hold that space, for ourselves and for others, our interactions change. So as we find greater wholeness and greater, I'm going to say satisfaction, because I believe that, and this is again a hypothesis, but I believe that toward our wholeness, as we move toward wholeness, we experience a greater ability to be compassionate and accepting, not only of ourselves but of others. So what as a result of that, we have a greater ability to be present, to actually be in this moment, to actually be clear of carrying all the burdens of our past that are um, obscuring the clarity of our vision. As we metabolize these things, we have a greater and greater ability to be present, to be responsive and response able rather than reactive. And it transforms every interaction. It transforms the frequency that we vibrate from. And as our frequency is transformed or elevated, we're emanating that into the world. And so as we approach greater wholeness with humility, right? This isn't about shame or blame or right or wrong. That's an old paradigm. This is about discovery and curiosity and growth and movement toward awakening and awareness and wholeness. And as we progress along that journey, we get to just have a deeper and deeper appreciation for the wonder of life and how bizarre it is on so many fronts to be witnessing. I think that's actually a big, big part of it, is that we become more the witness of ourselves, the witness of life, the witness of life unfolding. There becomes a lesser attachment to the machinations, the day-to-day machinations of life, and a greater connection to this underlying thrum of existence, this underlying frequency of perfection. That might be a really hard thing to connect to, but that underlies all of it, and that we make all this meaning around it. We make all kinds of stories. So with the guilt and the shame and the blame and the anger and the vengeance, and we make all kinds of stories to justify the feelings rather than just being present to them as energy. We are energy transmutation devices. We are energy filters, and there's an energetic feedback that is going on all the time, and we're generators. You know, we're little energy transformers. And the interesting thing is that we can galvanize and direct our consciousness toward the transmutation of these energies if we recognize emotion is energy. So as we deny it, not only is it energy, but it has its intelligence, as do our bodies. That when an emotion is arising, it's a communication. It's a communication from another dimension of our being that is calling our attention to a circumstance. It's calling our awareness, it's calling our attention. And we have the opportunity. So as emotion arises, even though it may be painful, even though it might be explosive, it provides an opportunity to step back and say, wow, okay, I'm listening. What is it? What is it I need to learn? What is it I need to know? Oh, there's a wound here that's calling for healing. And being present to the sensations of that, being present to the emotion, recognizing it, acknowledging it, being present to it, allows us entree to the capability for metabolizing it, for healing that part of ourselves, for reclaiming that part of ourselves that perhaps we locked away in some deep, dark closet. And the thing is that our emotions have such intensity that we are often afraid of them, afraid that we'll get lost in them. And I've seen this over and over, and I remember it for myself, being afraid that I would get lost in my depression and I would never, ever come out. I used to have a fear of being committed for many years because I was trying to harness this volcano, and that can be crazy making, and also believing that there's no space for us as we are in the world. So we subvert things, which actually makes us feel crazier. Anyway, wholeness, the path to wholeness is a path of humility, perhaps. But more than that, I think it's a suspension of judgment of oneself. It's and an elevation of curiosity. So Rosalind says, as we move toward wholeness, I experience it when I notice my struggle being expressed by others, like a mirror. People I encounter are a reflection of me. Be the mirror that reflects the beauty. I love that, Rosalind. And it's true. Others are a reflection of us. So if people are being nasty, there's an opportunity to look at, well, wait, what's my vibe? What's going on? And it's not always all us, or maybe it is. I'm not certain. That the jury's out on that. But the world that we perceive is the world of our creation. And as we move toward greater wholeness, we may be seeing more of the truth. So with that, that's it for this morning. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And as always, I invite you to check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network and Enlightened World Living. And I just want to say thank you again to you for the opportunity to have these musings together, to explore different ways of thinking and being, that and the nature of being in the world. So it's just such a gift and a privilege, and I'm so grateful. So until next time, so much love to you.